Welcome, Dr. Philip. We welcome you to the webinar. Please unmute yourself.
Good morning or good afternoon.
Dr. Philip, we welcome you to the webinar.
Thank you so much.
Please unmute yourself.
I am unmuted.
Thank you.
Can't hear me?
Yes, we can hear you, Professor. Good morning. How are you?
I'm very good. And yourself?
Good, thanks.
Yep. I'm glad we found the right time.
Yes, sir. You can't hear me? Yes, we can hear you, Professor. Good morning. How are you?
I can hear someone saying good morning very faintly.
Yes, somebody is is unmuted and you can hear the echo.
I see.
Yes.
I see. So are we going to be pretty much on time?
Yes, like we will wait for our principal.
Mm-hmm.
She will be joining. She is just finishing one meeting.
Yep.
Thank
And
you.
then I'll be able to share my PowerPoint. Yes, I can.
You can.
Yeah. Perfect. So how many students are participating?
So we have registered for more than 100 students.
Oh my goodness.
Yes.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you so much. So have you visited India before?
Many times.
Okay, great.
I love your country. My college roommate is from Bangalore.
Oh, Bangalore, right, great. So next time, whenever you are here, please visit our institute. This
I'll
will
be very honored to do so.
Thank you.
Very much. Yeah. Actually, I should look on a map exactly where you are. Let's see. But you're the capital of UP, right?
Yes, it is the capital of most populated and polluted state of India.
Well, that's not a good tourist feature.
Yes.
Let's see.
But we are behind Delhi in pollution, so people visit Delhi also.
Yeah, that's pretty bad. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, you're way north, huh?
Yeah.
Uh-huh. Yeah, I've been to Delhi, but I've never been in your region. No.
So whenever you plan your visit to India next time, so we'll be more than happy to host you.
Yeah, yeah. Oh yeah, Agra is halfway. Yeah, okay. Interesting. So when do you come to Switzerland?
Sorry?
When do you come to Switzerland?
Like every year, like before COVID.
Good. Good.
We have little collaboration with ETH Zurich.
Ah, okay. Yeah. Okay. And so you speak Swiss German?
No, not at all. We speak English. I speak English. Recently, one of our students also visited Zurich. Like she was there for 45 days for an internship program.
Wonderful. That's quite an opportunity.
Yes, that is.
I hope it wasn't winter.
It was from 14th March till end of this last week.
Okay.
April,
And she had a productive time?
Yes, it was very fruitful.
Yeah.
So we are open for collaborations like our universities. So if you have any opportunities for our institute or our students, if you have any fellowship or any internship for our students, that would be greatly appreciated.
I take note.
Yes.
You should have caught me two years ago when I was the head of everything.
Uh-huh.
But I gave up my positions to be on the UN committee. So I don't have any control on anything anymore. I'm
Yes,
even glad to have an office.
you can still guide the students. That's the thing.
I can still do that, yes.
Yes, yes.
No, I have plenty of work, but I gave up as much as I can administrative duties.
Yes.
But I make note of it and I'll let my colleagues know.
Yeah, please. That will be very kind of you. You know, like this institute is 135, more than 135 years old. First
Yeah.
women Christian, college in whole Asia.
Yeah, I saw that in your on your webpage. Indeed,
Yes.
it's been around for a while, huh?
Yes.
And you must have quite a group of alumni.
Yeah.
Do you have international students as well?
We had in past, like still we are having like from our neighboring country like Nepal, but not so much from other places of the world.
Yeah.
Like we will be starting like within 2 minutes, sir.
Sure.
Thank you. Dr. Rajan and Dr. Kapoor, I think Dr. Principal is our respected principal is here, and it is time. So can we start?
Yes, we can start. Just a moment.
Dr. Rajan and Dr. Kapoor, I think respected principal is here.
Just a moment.
Dr. Rajan and Dr. Kapoor.
Yes, I'm here. I'm here. You can begin.
Okay, thank you. Dr. Sonika, I think so. Your YouTube is echoing. So if you can.
Just a moment. So, like, what should I do?
Dr. Rajan and Dr. Kapoor.
Yes, I'm here. I'm here. You can begin.
Okay, thank you. Dr. Sonika, I think so. Your.
I've closed that window. Maybe now it will not echo now.
Yes, yes, thank
I
you.
hope so. I really hope so.
Yes. So it is time to start. So before anything, what we do here in IT College, Isabella Tobin College, we start with thanking God. So I would like to request Grace to kindly start.
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir. First of all, I'd like to say good morning to our honorable guest and good afternoon to our respected principal ma'am, teachers, and my dear friends. As it is the tradition of our college, we always begin all our programs with a word of prayer and the blessings of our Lord God Almighty. So today, a Thanksgiving song has been prepared by the students of B.Ed Department, Isabella Tobin College, Lucknow. Therefore, as I present this song, I hope that you all also join us in singing the song as the lyrics will be presented along with it.
soul, worship His holy name. Sing like never before. Oh, my soul, I worship Your holy name. The sun comes up, it's a new day dawning. It's time to sing Your song again. Whatever may pass and whatever lies before me, let me be singing when the evening comes. Bless the Lord, oh my soul, oh my soul, worship His holy name. Sing like never before. Oh my soul, I worship Your holy name. You're rich in love and You're slow to anger. Name is great and Your heart is kind. For all Your goodness I will keep on singing. 10,000 reasons for my heart to find. Bless the Lord, oh my soul, oh my soul, worship His holy name. Sing like never before. Oh my soul, I worship Your holy name. And on that day when my strength is failing, the end draws near and my time has come, still my soul will sing Your praise unending. 10,000 years and then forevermore. Bless the Lord, oh my soul, oh my soul, worship His holy name. Sing like never before. Oh my soul, I worship Your holy name. Bless the Lord, oh my soul, oh my soul, worship His holy name. Sing like never before. Oh my soul, I worship Your holy name.
It is befitting to remember God before we begin this program. So let us all look to God in prayer. Dear Heavenly Father, we thank You for all the blessings You have bestowed upon us. Thank You, Lord, for allowing us to meet today through this platform and to share our knowledge and time with one another. May You extend Your divine wisdom to our esteemed speakers so that they would be able to effectively impart their God-given knowledge to all of us. May they be blessed as they continue to bring their expertise to the people who need it. Lord, we know that You love children. Please keep them safe and free from injuries. Deliver them from oppression and hazardous conditions. Lord, I pray to You for emotional, physical, and spiritual protection over all the children. Keep evil far from them and help them to trust You for refuge and strength. Lord, please make it possible for children at risk to stay in school Lord, help us to appreciate and implement the knowledge that we receive from this webinar. Lord, we submit this program into your hands. We ask this prayer in the matchless name of our Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ. Amen.
Thank you so much, Jigyasa. Like now, I would like to request our respected principal ma'am to kindly give the welcome address.
Thank you, Dr. Lawrence. On behalf of Isabella Thoban, am I audible?
Yes, ma'am.
On behalf of Isabella Thoban College, I would like to extend a warm welcome to our keynote speaker, Dr. Philip D. Jaff from the University of Geneva, Switzerland. And when I say warm welcome, I actually mean warm welcome because it's a very hot afternoon here with the temperatures touching 43 degrees. So you can imagine how hot it is here at this time of the year in Lucknow. So Professor, we welcome you here in our midst, and we would love to hear from you addressing the challenges in child rights on this seminar. Also, I would like to welcome on board our guest of honor, Professor Tripta Trivedi, Head and Dean, Faculty of Education, University of Lucknow. I would like to congratulate the IQAC of Isabella Thoban College and the Department of Teacher Education for organizing this webinar on challenges in child rights protection, which is something that is very, very relevant in today's times and in today's world. This inaugural program will be leading to a certificate course in child rights under the aegis of human rights, which is a paper that the students of the B.Ed department will be studying in their curriculum as well. And like I said, it is so very important and relevant to talk about this issue, to engage in conversations on this issue, because children are the most vulnerable and disadvantaged section of the society. They are dependent on others for their physical, emotional, and social well-being, as well as for their safety. And that is why parents, teachers, society, and even the state needs to build an environment for their development, for their growth, for their well-being, and for their safety. Every child, has a right to survival, a right to good health, right to education, and right to safety. But unfortunately, as we see around us, we face many challenges when it comes to the rights of children. Even before the child is born, its survival is challenged with multiple cases of feticide, infanticide, especially in the case of the girl child in many societies. In third world countries, especially, the infant mortality is also very low. And many children face health issues and malnutrition. In India, the literacy rate among children is among one of the lowest, and the dropout rate among one of the highest. Even exploitation of children in terms of child labor in hazardous and life-threatening conditions as well, child trafficking and abuse, both physical, sexual, and emotional, are all challenges that children face. That is why both action and advocacy is required to protect the rights of children and to create a conducive environment for their growth and development. The UNICEF, for which Dr. Jaff, the UN for which Dr. Jaff works, and the UNICEF and many other international organizations are working in this direction, especially in engaging children in participative dialogue. I've read about many conferences being arranged where children are also invited to give their point of view. In India, the National Commission for Protection of Child Rights was established in 2005 and became operational in 2007. It has a number of programs for child rights. A couple of months back, World Vision India, which works with disadvantaged and marginalized children in India, visited our campus, and the national director gave a presentation on the need of the protection of child rights. And I'm so happy today that we at Isabella Thoburn College are engaging the faculty and the students, and also those students and faculty who have joined from other colleges in conversations like this. And today's event is a positive event in that direction. I'm sure that our esteemed speakers will give us a deeper insight and a wider exposure on the topic. And it will be a learning experience for each one of us. With these words, I wish you all the best. And I know for sure that there will be a lot of takeaways from what our speakers have to share. And if there is an interactive session at the end, it will benefit all of us. You can ask your questions and you can progress in the direction of learning more about child rights and the protection of child rights. So all the very best. My best wishes are with you. Thank you so much for making me part of this event. Thank you. All the best.
Thank you, Principal Ma'am. Thank you so much for your kind words. And now I would like to request Dr. Archana Kapoor, head of the Teachers Department, to kindly say a few words about the department. Ma'am, kindly unmute yourself. Dr.
The B.Ed department of Isabella Thoburn College has a glorious history. This department is a pioneer of teacher education in the state of Uttar Pradesh in India. For over 100 years, teacher training classes were initiated, and ever since, the department has produced quality teachers. Students of our department are exposed to a vibrant learning environment with a balance between curricular and co-curricular activities. It tries to imbibe competencies, commitment, and knowledge required for nurturing the future citizens in schools. The department is continuously engaged in research and innovation and strives to develop outstanding professionals who will play a significant role in catalyzing social change at the national and global level. This webinar, addressing the challenges of child rights protection, will equip our students with a very relevant social issue and empower them further as they continue to interact with children in various educational institutions in India and abroad. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Dr. Kapoor, for your lovely introduction about your department. Very shortly and very briefly, I would like to just introduce today's seminar theme. As everyone knows, the theme of our seminar is addressing the challenges in child rights protection. So I would like to start with a beautiful quote by Nelson Mandela. It clearly specifies that true character of a society is revealed in how it treats its children. Human rights and its relevance. Human rights are inherent to all human beings, and human rights are non-discriminatory. But then too, it is not all human beings experience them equally. It has been ignored both by government and individuals. We all know few of human rights, that is civil rights, political rights, economic rights, social rights, cultural rights, and collective rights. And nowadays, since few years, I'm hearing a lot about women's rights. Definitely, yes, it is the key most important topic and right which everyone has to fight. But we have to think about child rights also. Both women's rights and child rights should go together. So far, the question is, what do you think about child rights? In India, everyone thinks about one problem, that is child labor. Definitely, yes, it is a major problem in India, but we have few other child rights also. Child rights in India, it is a right to an identity, a right to health, a right to education, right to family life, a right to protected from violence, a right to an opinion, a right to be protected from armed conflict, and a right to be protected from exploitation. In India, our government is trying a lot for the right of education, but still what we have to do and what we have to think as teachers, as students, we have to think about child right, the right to be heard, the right to a childhood, the right to be educated, the right to be healthy, and the right to be treated fairly. What we planned, why we planned this event? We want to educate our teachers, our future teachers, and the students here. All children are equal and have the same rights. Every child has a right to have his or her basic needs fulfilled. Every child has the right to protection from abuse and exploitation. And every child has the right to express his or her opinion and to be respected. After this seminar, like soon in the last week of June, we'll be having a 40 hours of course. And that too will be organized by AQC and BA department. Why? For a better tomorrow. So without wasting our time, I will just like to conclude just by saying keeping children safe in everyone's responsibility. Now, I would like to request Dr. Paul Matthew to kindly introduce our keynote speaker. Dr. Paul Matthew?
Yes. Am I audible?
Yes, sir, you are.
Good afternoon, everyone. Honorable keynote speaker, Professor Philip D. Jaff. Guest of honor, Dr. Tripta Trivedi, Head and Dean, University of Faculty of Education, University of Lucknow. Respected Principal Ma'am, Dr. Vinita Prakash, members of the faculty, participants and students. Human rights in general and child rights in particular have been at the center stage of policy and decision making for quite some time now. But rampant violations of human rights are so glaring that they just can't be swept under the carpet. Be it the atrocities committed against the people, including women and children in Ukraine, denial of rights to education to girls under the Taliban regime, targeting youth and children in the name of religion, sect, or caste in our own country, the instances are far too many. It's therefore apt and relevant that we have this international seminar on child rights, because awareness is the key to any fundamental change or transformation. It's a proud privilege to have with us today such an eminent international figure, Dr. Philip, as the keynote speaker. Professor Philip is a member of the United Nations Committee on Rights of the Child, passionate and committed to improving the condition of children in the world. He works as a professor of psychology and the director of the Center for Children's Rights Studies of the University of Geneva, Switzerland. His research projects are on a right-based approach and monitoring mechanisms of institutions in promoting child rights. He has been focusing on areas like children deprived of their liberty, children's participation in justice system, and exploring children's views on the way to and from school. His areas of interest include child sexual abuse, school bullying, and children's perception of their own rights. He is a licensed psychotherapist and court-appointed expert in legal proceedings involving children. He is associated with the Society of Legal Psychology, Swiss Society of Legal Psychology, and Council of Europe's group of experts on child-friendly justice. He is also a board member of Pro Juventate Switzerland. It's a proud privilege, sir, to have you in our midst to address on such an important topic as child rights in the national and the international perspective. Thank you.
So, Professor Jaffe, it's over to you. It's like a blessing for us to hear from you.
Thank you very much. I'm going to share my screen. Do you see the PowerPoint?
Yes, sir, we can see.
Dr. Matthew, thank you very much for your kind words of introduction. You vastly exaggerated my importance. And Dr. Lawrence, thank you very much for the invitation, distinguished faculty. It's a real pleasure to meet with you, even if it's online. And best of all, hello to all the students. That's what makes our life interesting. Let me start off by saying that for us, it's a very warm day as well, 23 degrees. So that for us is quite a summer day already. And I just wanted to start off by letting you know where I am pretty much. And some of you may know where Switzerland is. It's a small country in the middle of Europe. And here you see it, and the different colors correspond to the different linguistic regions of Switzerland. We speak French, German, Italian, and a small language called Romansh. We're a population of 8.5 million, very small compared to your country. And our specialties are banks, especially other people's money, chocolate, tourism, and neutrality. And we also welcome a lot of Bollywood feature film making crews in our mountains. Where I'm located is in the south of Switzerland. And don't be surprised, the Center for Children's Rights is a very small center. And here it is. We have 50 students studying children's rights. It's a very exclusive program. In a small part of Switzerland, and it's a wonderful, beautiful part of Switzerland. And this is the view from my office today. So it's a nice place, and you're all welcome to come and visit. I'm going to be quite panoramic in my presentation, but to put everybody at ease, I would like to give you my conclusions to start with. So you have the main takeaways as far as I'm concerned. I am a firm believer that academia has a special role to play in the field of human rights. We are human rights defenders. And if academia and academics are not capable of upholding human rights, I don't see where humanity will be going. The second takeaway is that I think that students in particular, and women students in particular, have a special role to play for our future. And I'll come back to that in a little bit. Everybody has noticed that these past few years, we've had a lot of turmoil around the world. The pictures date from pre-COVID times. A lot of protests. Here, pictures of Hong Kong and Spain. And what I just want to pick out for you right at the start is that these protests involved a lot of young people and a lot of children. Children have been protesting quite a bit. Here you have the same in Lebanon, in Chile a couple of years ago, where there were some very violent clashes. The state was quite ruthless in putting down the protests. A lot of children were injured. Very, very difficult times. Things have evolved, fortunately, in the right direction. Here we have Algeria. We also have the United Kingdom. These were peaceful protests. Nonetheless, a lot of children participated. I want to go through very quickly just a little bit of history, again, to tie things to academia. It could be argued, and I hear that the School of Education at your college is involved. It can be argued that children's rights did start with education, with a philosopher called Jean-Jacques Rousseau, and in his book, Émile, or on education, and also his book, The Social Contract, showing that children needed customized approaches, individual approaches that took into account their capacities to be better educated and to progress in a learning process. Another key figure in children's rights, not recognized as such, is Jean Piaget, who was a very famous developmental psychologist. And in 2 sentences, why is he such a huge figure in the field of children's rights? Because he involved children in research. All his research was based on trying to figure out how children think and explain the problems that they solve in their intellectual pursuits and how they build their intellectual capacities. And for that, children were his main research assistants, if you will. And if that's not participation, I don't know what it is. In terms of history, another important figure is Églantine Jebb. Please notice that she's a woman, a very extraordinary woman, very rebellious, very stubborn, also very persuasive, but also visionary. Died much too young. And she founded a NGO that you probably still know very well, Save the Children. Save the Children was her baby, so to speak. And it's evolved into the biggest NGO in the field of child protection. She was also, as if that was not enough, she was also the main person behind elaborating the first declaration on children's rights, the Geneva Declaration in 1924, that was adopted by the League of Nations, the ancestor of the UN, United Nations. What is important to note is that these declarations were just what they are called, declarations. There's nothing binding about them. And so around the late 70s, the international community came together for an International Year of the Child. And if we can call Églantine Jebb the godmother of children's rights, during that 1979 year, Janusz Korczak became a global household name and could be called the godfather of children's rights. I don't want to go into his history. It's a very dramatic history, but if anyone is interested in education and children's rights, you absolutely have to read his books. They are absolutely marvelous and inspiring to this day. So 1979, people started wondering, well, maybe we should start thinking about a new way of seeing children and have the child evolve from a subject of rights to a holder of rights. And why not assemble everything that we declare in various documents into one international document which recognizes and protects the specific rights of children and requires states to actively engage in favor of the well-being of children. This was not a simple proposition, and you will, for those of you who know, evolving in the field of children's rights is not a simple enterprise. And this ended up in a very important document which you alluded to, the Convention on the Rights of the Child, which is the most ratified human rights convention ever. As you know, every state in the world has ratified it except one, the United States, and even that is a little bit tricky. It's not as if they completely did not ratify it. I won't get into that. That's for the jurists. What's so important to remember is that this is a binding treaty, and it covers all aspects of children's life. And if you want to subdivide this treaty, this document, You can refer to the 3 P's: protection, participation, and provision. Obviously, protection is a huge aspect of children's rights. They are vulnerable. They encounter a lot of forms of exploitation and violence, and they're subject to discrimination like human beings of all ages, by the way. But participation is a huge aspect as well. Why are they? They should never be second-class citizens. They should be first-class citizens, even beyond that. They are the most important elements of our societies. So that is an aspect that the convention has played up, and which is lagging somewhat in terms of how we're implementing the convention on the global stage. And then, of course, at the core of children's rights is provision, providing various services and capacities to intervene in the areas in which children have needs, including education, health, and various other fields. As you know, there are 4 guiding principles. I'll just mention them: non-discrimination, best interest of the child, survival and development, and participation. Now, the Convention on the Rights of the Child is the mother of child rights treaties, but it has 3 important complementary optional protocols. And I would like to focus on one of them a little bit now, but later on a lot more. The 3 optional protocols are OPAC, on the rights of the child, on the involvement of children in armed conflict; OPSC, the rights of the child on the sale of children, child prostitution, and child pornography. And please note that India has ratified these 2 optional protocols, and we receive updates on their implementation from your government. And the 3rd optional protocol is the most recent one, OPIC, the optional protocol on the rights of the child on a communications procedure. That is the capacity of children to actually access justice and report violations and make complaints about violations of their rights directly to the Committee on the Rights of the Child. Please note that India has not ratified this optional protocol, which is really too bad. India is not alone. Of 197 countries, I believe about 50 only so far have ratified it. So children's violations in India can only be dealt with by national bodies, national judicial bodies, and there's nothing extra territorial about the violations that may occur in India. And that is too bad, because it would probably enhance children's rights to a great degree. I'm not going to go into a lot of details, just really underscore that India, like 196 states parties that ratified the convention, it's a solemn binding agreement. The government has stated on behalf of its population, on behalf of its children, that it will implement the contents of the Convention on the Rights of the Child. And obviously there are countries that do a better job than others. And I certainly will not characterize your home country. I will start with my own, Switzerland. So that will put everybody at ease. Switzerland is an extraordinarily wealthy country, and it has not done anything. It has not done, by far not enough to promote children's rights at the level that it could afford with the wealth it has. So every country in the world has a lot more to do, my own rich country included. A few words on the Committee on the Rights of the Child, because it's an important body. You should know that it's one of 10 human rights treaty bodies, they're called. And I won't go into the details, but there are 2 that are really important. One is CEDAW, which has to do with the elimination of discrimination against women. And we work very, very much with them. because women also include girls, as everybody knows. And another committee we work a lot with is the more recent Committee on the Rights of Persons with Disabilities, because a lot of children have disabilities as well of different types. But we work with all the committees to some extent. The committee is made up of 18 independent experts, people of high moral standing, so they say. I hope I fit that characterization. Recognize competence. We serve in our personal capacity. I'm an independent expert. And we meet 3 times a year, and the next time is this coming Monday for 5 weeks. This time will be 5 weeks in a beautiful building in Geneva by the lake. And so that everybody knows, we are not paid for our duties at the Committee on the Rights of the Child. Here is the picture of the current Committee on the Rights of the Child. I'm going to take just 1 minute just to cite where each of my colleagues come from, because we pay a lot of attention to gender balance, regional balance, so that children's rights are represented from every corner of the world. So from starting on the first row on the right, my colleague from Barbados, and then a colleague from Morocco. At the center, our chair from Japan, then from Togo, then from Georgia. You may recognize the person behind. Next to him is a former chair from Uruguay, a lady from Niger, a lady from Bulgaria, a lady from South Africa, a recent member from Chad. And then if you go back, Venezuela, Samoa. If you don't know where Samoa is, it's a speck, a small island in the Pacific Ocean, somewhere between Australia and New Zealand, an absolutely beautiful country. And then the last row we have on the right, a colleague from Bhutan, Belgium, Ethiopia, Iceland, and Egypt. What do we do? Our main job is to make sure that states live up to their commitments in terms of implementing the Convention on the Rights of the Child. And states have an obligation to report to us with a document reviewing the progress made every 5 years. And because states tend to embellish what they accomplish and minimize the problems, we also have a mechanism by which we receive so-called shadow reports or alternative reports, which are generated by NGOs or governmental organizations like UNICEF that put the finger on the problems in a more direct way than some governments do. And I'm not implying that India, in any case, is not upfront with issues that it is confronting. But even again, in my home country, Switzerland, when you read the 2 reports, the official report and the shadow report, there are some discrepancies that are worth making note of. So this is a way of making sure that we have all the information, official and unofficial, on the state of children's rights in a given country. India submitted its last report, if I'm not mistaken, yeah, it's there, in 2014. I'm sorry, probably in 2013. But we met with your government's delegation. I was not yet a member of the committee. And then we produce at the end of our evaluation. So we meet with a government delegation, we gather a lot of information, and we're able to have a very in-depth so-called constructive dialogue. And then we produce what are called concluding observations, which is guidance to a state on what we heard, what the problems are, and what our recommendations are. Please note, and again, this is a slight criticism to India, but again, not alone. You notice that the last report was in 2013, and I said it should be submitted every 5 years. So we're 9 years and 4 years late for the next report. I haven't checked. Perhaps the report is in, but we haven't treated it yet. But so anyway, we have a backlog, but still countries are quite slow producing their reports. Here are some of the recommendations that we made to India. And every word is important. The part in bold is particularly important. We urge the state party to take all necessary measures to address a certain number of issues, particularly those related to non-discrimination, adoption, harmful practices, sexual exploitation, education, health, child labor, and the administration of juvenile justices. Let me be a little bit blunt. This is just one sentence, but what it means, these are the black eyes for the state party India. Every country receives black eyes. Don't worry about it. We're very fair in distributing criticism, but you can see that it covers a lot of fields and not small fields. One of the things we asked India to do is to rescind its reservation regarding one of the articles of the convention, saying basically, we are ratifying the convention, but we're not going to recognize one of its articles, Article 32. And if you're not aware of what Article 32, it may not come at any surprise that it has to do with child labor. Article 32 states parties recognize the right of the child to be protected from economic exploitation and from performing any work that is likely to be hazardous or to interfere with the child's education. My personal feeling is that India, as we all know, and it was already mentioned by way of introduction, this is a big issue in your country. I guess there's a calculation, a political calculation, not to rescind this reservation. I personally think that it's much more clear if you rescind a reservation and then try to do your best to implement the disposition regarding child labor. So I won't go into the rest of Article 32. We also say that there's not enough of a coordination on children's rights at the upper levels of government, and here there's a way to go. Again, my home country, Switzerland, received the same criticism. Training on children's rights. Let me put a word in for that because that concerns academic institutions. We urge the state party to strengthen its efforts to provide all professionals working for and with children with adequate and systematic training in children's rights. And here are schools and educational entities at all levels, all the way up to master levels, doctoral levels, research, advanced research, should be encouraged. And of course, schools in which children learn must implement programs to promote and train professionals working with and for children. Discrimination. Please implement a comprehensive strategy to address discrimination, especially children from castes and tribes and with disabilities. In 2014, HIV/AIDS was still a huge issue, asylum seeking, but many others. And here, perhaps a particular element to underscore, we are deeply concerned about pervasive discrimination against girls and women, and persistent patriarchal attitudes and deep-rooted stereotypes that perpetuate discrimination against girls. And I know India has made huge strides with regard to women's rights and girls' rights. Nonetheless, we all know that there's some serious issues and a lot of roads still to cover. We explicitly prohibit all forms of corporal punishment in the field of, it's just one element in the chapter on violence against children. We know, if I recall, India has banned corporal punishment in institutional settings, but not in the home or other areas in which children live. And we feel very strongly that that should be an explicit prohibition in the law, so that everybody knows that it's not allowed. Just to say here, there's a huge global evolution. I think we're at about almost 70 countries which have banned corporal punishment in all areas in which children live and go to school. And then all the other violence against children needs to get a lot more attention. Sexual violence against girls, but not only girls. The justice system has to be revamped to be more specialized and more advanced in terms of its capacity to deal with these heinous crimes against women. And I don't need to recall that India has been in the headlines these past few years for some horrific incidents that concerned sexual violence against young women and girls. I'm not gonna go into details anymore. I know time goes by very fast. Perhaps also underscore, because it concerns women and girls, that we strongly feel that India should promote sexual and reproductive health education as part of mandatory school curricula, and especially to prevent early pregnancy, but also on to prevent health issues developing for these young people. I know that India is a very large country, and to some extent it's devolved into different states, and that there may be some uneven implementation of some of these measures, but overall we feel that it needs to be strengthened. I'm not going to go into, climate change. I'm going to come back to this. We already flagged the fact that India, being a very large country, a country that is becoming industrialized at a huge industrial power at a very rapid pace, that there is a strong need for India to show the way and address climate change. And since 2014, this issue has become much more salient. The other things we do, apart from examining state party reports and how states implement children's rights, we generate so-called general comments. And I'd like to say just a few words on that. I'm not going to go into huge detail. What happens is that every 2 years we hold a day of general discussion. This is an extraordinary event that takes place in Geneva at the UN. Hundreds, if not thousands, of specialists from all over the world and children from all over the world congregate to address a specific topic. We covered state violence against children, the right of children to be heard, armed conflict. In 2018, we worked on child human rights defenders, and I'll come back to that in a second. So these are very important moments for the children's rights community to congregate and to focus on a specific issue. And more often than not, what happens is that it will generate the need to produce a general comment on that specific issue. So last year it was on alternative care. And going back a few years, in 2014, we held a day of general discussion on children in the environment. On the digital environment. I don't have to go into details and underline how important the digital world is now for our societies and for children. Here you see how connected children are to various digital contraptions. if you think that you're controlling the information age, that's absolutely not true. We're at a crossroads, and we really have to think through children's rights in the digital world. So from a day of general discussion on children's rights in the digital environment, we worked for the past 3 years on producing a general recommendation or a general comment. And the last one is the following, a general comment on children's rights in relation to the digital environment. A general comment may be not well known to many of you, but it is official guidance to states on how to address rights in on a specific issue. And let me suffice it to say that the digital environment, it's not because there are no people populating the digital environment that there are no human rights. There are many, many issues regarding children and their rights being violated in the digital environment. I'm going to plug in a request, invite me back, and I'll speak to you much more about this. Yeah, I don't want to. I want to save some time perhaps for discussion. But one of the things that I've been very interested in is the degree to which the business sector is an important player with regard to safeguarding children's rights in the digital environment. Everybody knows Google, Apple, and Amazon and other entities, but there are many, many companies that provide services and hardware and programs, and we really have to make sure that they have the users' rights of children in mind when they produce their wares and their programs. And so the business sector is extremely important. And we also feel very strongly that states should have a much stronger regulatory mechanism to control how businesses carry out their business in the digital environment. And yeah, again, make sure that they have in mind the rights of children. In 2016, we had a day of general discussion on children's rights and the environment. And it was a relatively quiet meeting. 2016, the world was still sort of quietly thinking, well, environment, yeah, that's important. And then all of a sudden, things exploded. This started in 2017, 18, and you may have recognized a young lady called Greta Thunberg. And then all of a sudden, the issue of climate change rightly came to the forefront of international discourse. And this is a quote from Greta Thunberg: "You're never too small to make a difference." An extraordinarily talented young lady who started her school strike. And here's another quote that I love: "You are not mature enough," speaking to adults, "to tell it like it is. Even that burden, you leave it to us children." Well, shame on us, the adults. Here are some, in the wake of presenting Greta Thunberg, here are some faces that you may recognize. I don't know if you do. I'll let you know who they are in a second. But they have something in common, and what they have in common is that they're young girls or young women, girls and women. So obviously the first picture, it's in a different order. She is the youngest representative in the US Congress, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. We have please. Am I?
Yes, sir. You may continue. Yes, sir.
Okay, because I heard someone interrupt me, so perhaps.
No, that was a mistake.
Please let me know when I have just a few minutes left. because
Yes,
I can
yes, we
speak
have
a
5
long
minutes to
time.
go. Yes, thank you.
Malala, you also have another very young Nobel Prize winner, Nadia Murad, who was a witness to sexual slavery, and a climate activist from Belgium, and a woman you probably have heard less of, but she is a strong advocate for gun control in the US, an extraordinary speaker, very inspiring and charismatic young lady, and of course Greta Thunberg again. But there have been very strong activists that have emerged over the years. Here's a wonderful person called Autumn Pelletier, who I'll be meeting next week. She is from a First Nation in Canada, and she has been very articulate about preserving cultural rights in relation to the environment and preserving the way of life of First Nations in North America. In India, you have a very famous climate activist as well, Lysipriya. She's 11 years old now. She's been quite active and has made a name for herself. I'm sure she's not the only one, but she has been quite recognizable on the global stage. But already in 1992, there's a very famous climate activist, Severin Kulis Suzuki, who addressed the United Nations very much in the same way Greta Thunberg did. And so we just hope that and I met her several times, she's still also very active as a human rights defender. Here she is a couple of years ago. All these children are CHRDs, Children Human Rights Defenders. This is a takeaway, please mark it. Human rights defenders are children who promote, protect, and fulfill their own human rights or the fundamental rights of their peers, including adults. And some of them are well known, and many are anonymous. And it's extremely important that we protect them and recognize them as being extremely helpful to the well-being of the communities and societies in which they live, and also on a global stage. The fact that there are children defenders of human rights stems from the right to participation in Article 12 of the Convention. Please go and read it. Basically, children are entitled to their opinion, and adults have an obligation to take that opinion into account and to act on it. I'm not going to go into this. And to give an illustration of this, back in 2019, 16 children from 12 countries, sorry, I couldn't remember, filed a complaint. Remember I mentioned the OPIC, the Optional Protocol on Individual Communications. They filed a complaint at the Committee on the Rights of the Child against 5 countries: Germany, Argentina, Brazil, France, and Turkey. And they filed an extraordinary complaint alleging a series of things, but basically that these polluting countries were putting their right to survival in jeopardy, affecting their health on a daily basis, violating their cultural rights, and their best interests right as well, and a whole lot of other consequences. And this complaint kept the committee busy much too long, but because it was such an important complaint that affected 5 large countries, not chosen by chance. These are, of the 50 or so countries that have ratified the optional protocol, these are the biggest polluters. So I'm sure that if India had ratified this optional protocol, it would also be in the list. Let me skip this. Oh, so another very famous, and I'll come back to the climate change case in a second. Another very famous child defender of human rights is, of course, Anna Frank, which most people and young girls around the world know who she is. And her main case for glory, so to speak, is that she used her pen as a weapon. And just writing could be a form of, an element of defending human rights. Yeah, I want to end very briefly by talking about this case on climate change, because to me it's a source of great hope. The complaint against the 5 countries I mentioned put in motion a very complex procedure by which the Committee on the Rights of the Child held hearings with the 16 children from all over the world. And we held hearings with each of the 5 states to gather information and make sure that we understood the degree to which children could have legal standing in their countries, or why they could not have legal standing and complain about the rights being violated and not be heard, to the point that they had to address their complaints to the Committee on the Rights of the Child. And this was a very complicated process because the children themselves did not file complaints in national courts. They said, climate change is too urgent. We have to resolve this much faster. If we file complaints in national courts, the system will get bogged down for decades in some cases, and we can't afford to lose all this time. The problem is that the committee is held to this very, very strict disposition that we can only receive complaints that have been lodged and adjudicated first in national courts. And only when national remedies are exhausted can the complaint make its way to the Committee on the Rights of the Child. So we were not able to receive the complaint, but we put in motion a way to hear the children and to let states know the following. We let them know in no uncertain terms, and you can look at this in the press or in the documents that came out of this. It's a big case. We let the states know in no uncertain terms that their pollution, their emissions of CO2, affects children outside of their borders. India's pollution affects children in Switzerland. Pollution in Switzerland affects children in India. Obviously, we have different levels of polluting countries, but India is a fairly large polluter. France and Germany are certainly large producers of gas emissions and CO2. So this is something that states have taken notice at and are quite worried, because that means that children from any country now have legal standing to complain within a country that is not their own for the violations that they're being subjected to because of the pollution generated by that country. So a child from India could lodge a complaint at the Committee on the Rights of the Child against France if that child went through the French system to try and have his violation of rights recognized. States are horrified at this prospect. And so they have been lobbying very hard, the Committee on the Rights of the Child, to water down, so to speak, our position. And let me end with just a couple of thoughts on that. It's having quite the contrary effect. We're right in the midst of writing a general comment on children's rights in the environment. And if anything, my prediction is that the Committee on the Rights of the Child will recognize a new right of children to a healthy, sustainable, and safe environment. And this new right is something that, and this was my main conclusion at the beginning of my talk, is a right that has been generated by children. That's what they have been asking for the past 5, 6 years. And we're very grateful, I think, all human beings and adults, that we have children that are engaged in caring about the state of the world, caring about other people, being human rights defenders. And I do hope that some of the students that are listening today will take this as a call for action for themselves as well, and not fall into the trap of becoming, how should I say it, very quiet citizens, not caring about their environment and the well-being of people around them. Thank you very much. I'll end here. I have no idea if I've spoken too long, but you did not interrupt me, and I appreciate it.
Thank you, Professor Philip, like for your intense and in-depth knowledge, which what you have given. And clearly it was a code which I have just read. You are not mature enough to tell it like it is. Even that burden you leave to us children. So with this quote, like I would like to request Dr. Rajan, Dr. Sonika Rajan, for like question and answers.
I can see that there are 3-4 students who want to ask questions. The first one I would invite Ria Francis to put her question. Ria, can you hear me? You had posted your question in the chat box. Another one is Srishti. Srishti, can you hear me?
Am I audible?
Yes, Akriti, you ask your question.
I am audible. Shall I ask?
Yes, yes, please.
And respect. Whenever we talk about child rights, and in our own country, but since this discussion was a bit about the world vision, I will know if you could, which country in the world has the best model on child rights, on the protection and
Your voice is not clear. So
What I heard,
She's asking that which country has the best child rights model in the world?
yes. There are two ways to answer that question. The first is a bit of a avoidance answer, which is to say that every country in the world, I don't know if, or put it differently, I don't know any country in the world that doesn't care about children in some form or fashion. Then we get into discrimination issues. Do they care enough about the children within the country? That's another issue. But in the other answer is to say that in terms of child rights being implemented, obviously countries that have more financial means are more advanced, but that's not true for all rich countries. And there are countries, and then the second ingredient is countries that have a strong civil society are more advanced than countries that do not have one, even if they profess to love their children. And then you have countries which you can find in Northern Europe, and I'll mention them: Norway, Sweden, Denmark. So-called Nordic countries have been for the past 20, 30 years at the forefront of implementing children's rights. Now, I say this with a lot of admiration for what they're doing, but they've also gotten sometimes things wrong. So when Norway comes to the Committee on the Rights of the Child, we are able to criticize them as well. They've pushed so far, for example, the best interest argument, that there are segments of Norwegian population saying, wait a second, we're creating children tyrants here. Family values need also to be respected. The value of the best interest is not always the best argument. and I could go into a lot more detail. So overall, rich countries with a strong civil society and who have had the political will to make advances in the field of human rights.
There is one question in chat box from Akriti. She is asking that parents play a very important role in a child's life, but many times they force their children to do what they want. So how can we sensitize the parents?
Yeah, that's a really excellent question. Parents have a very important role in children's lives, and they should have a very important role in children's lives. And human society has not invented a unit that is better equipped to accompany a children during its developmental stages. Has not invented something better than families to do that. Of course, we add schools and we help families with education and health services that families will not provide themselves. But the family unit is really the place where building blocks occur. Now, the education of adults does require them to understand that the best way they can accompany their children to adulthood and to the enjoyment of their adult life is to respect the evolving capacities of children. In other words, the younger the child is, the more present the parents need to be, the more guidance they must provide, the most structured guidance they must provide. And as the child matures, they have to have that humility to step back gradually to allow the child to experience more and more autonomy to reach a stage when he's or she is an adult and will be an autonomous person and found and generate his or her own family. Now, I think that you will always find families that do not respect children's rights. All the families where violence occurs, for example, whether it's towards the children or between men and women. But there are many, many families, and I think the vast majority, that are more than willing to progress and evolve if they receive good guidance from institutions and that know how to educate and promote children's rights. And I'm thinking of the special roles of schools, for example. I know that in India you have a very, very strong educational system. The same in my country. In my country, schools tend to function a little bit autarkically. In other words, we send children to school in the morning, we recuperate them in the evening, but you don't have the feeling that schools are part of the community, that adults are brought in to discuss, communicate, share, and absorb some of the trends and knowledge that should be within their own arsenal in terms of guiding children within the family. And I think that's also the key. I mean, I think schools, families, and children are natural partners. Now, let me be even more precise. Schools, fathers and mothers and children are natural partners. Yeah.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much for your talk, which enlightened us a lot. Now I'll request Dr. Jain to please introduce our guest of honor.
Thank you. Thank you, Professor Philip. Greatly appreciate it. It was a blessing. Thank you. Yes, Jane, Dr. Jane, you can start.
Okay. Very good evening, everyone. Am I audible?
Yes, you are.
Okay. It is my absolute pleasure to welcome and introduce our guest of honor for today, Dr. Tripta Trivedi. Dr. Tripta Trivedi is a teacher educator since last 26 years and has served in some renowned universities and colleges. Currently, she is professor in the Department of Education, University of Lucknow, and is holding the post of head and dean. She is the recipient of International Visiting Scholar Fellowship from Fulbright Foundation and International Scholar Exchange Fellowship from Korea Foundation for Advanced Studies. Her long experience of staying abroad for academic pursuits, along with her passion for teaching, has resulted in developing in her professional maturity and a bent towards innovations in the field of teacher education. With a PhD in English literature and a PhD in education, her area of interest is working in the field of English language teacher education. She has authored 2 books, has many publications in reputed journals, completed few national as well as international projects, and has attended numerous seminars, conferences, and workshops as participant as well as resource person. Ma'am, I extend a very warm welcome to you and thank you for accepting our invitation. The virtual dais is all yours now.
Thank you so much for such an impressive introduction of myself. I'm really thankful to IT College, and I'm also thankful to the organizing team for making me a part of your program today. First of all, I would like to thank and acknowledge that a very enlightening and very informative session was presented by Dr. Philip from University of Geneva. After his speech, I have no more words to add to the cause of this concern which has been taken up today. Was taken up today in the webinar, and I'm very short awareness and to make people aware and to ensure that child rights are preserved and conserved and they are enforced and people become aware about it. The organizing team also needs lots of applause and congratulations from
Dr. Sonika, can you hear me?
Yes, Dr. Lawrence. I think some problem on her network.
Yes, yes.
So I'm just thinking what to do.
Yeah, like we can wait like for like a couple of minutes.
Yes, yes.
Some technical glitches do happen, and I kind apologize for that.
Maybe some electricity problem, because we shall wait for some more minutes.
Yeah, sure. Like since past 1 hour she was here.
Yes,
Yes.
she got right in the beginning.
So Dr. Kapoor, can you just call her?
Sure, I'm trying.
Thank you so much.
I tried to call her, it got connected, then suddenly the phone was cut again. I'll try.
Yes, please, ma'am.
Maybe she is taking this lecture from phone only.
Yes, ma'am.
That's why not picking the call.
Dr. Kapoor, if you are saying something, we are unable to hear. You have to unmute yourself.
Maybe she is talking to Dr. Tripta.
Okay.
वो try कर रही हैं. She has come outside near the lift now from her room because the circle is moving and there's some connectivity problem.
Yes, I think so. She has joined now. Like,
So maybe
yes.
she's saying I'm trying. Otherwise, let's see. Is she there now?
Yes, she just
Joined, yes.
joined.
I think she's trying because she said that I'm trying my best.
She's here. She has already joined. Maybe some technical.
Some technical issue.
Yes, I bet. Yes, she is here.
Hello.
Yes, ma'am, you are audible, ma'am.
Oh, I'm so sorry. There was some loss of connection. I'm so sorry
No
for
problem,
the interruption.
No problem.
Am I audible now?
Yes.
Because I think in my department there is some connectivity issue. Anyways, the commendable work which has been done by IT College and the team of IT College needs to be applauded, and all my blessings, all my support, all support from University of Lucknow in related to the course which is being designed and offered by IT College will be taken care of by the Department of Education, Lucknow University, Lucknow. We will be very happy to launch this short-term course. We'll be happy to offer it to our teacher preparation students and also to the liberal students who will be taking up UG and PG with education as a subject. So I'm really very happy that this course is coming up, and today awareness has been created through the webinar, through the informative talk by our expert, Dr. Philip, and I don't have really many words to thank him and to thank the college for making me a part of this campaign.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Professor Trivedi. Yes, Dr. Lawrence.
Over to you for vote of thanks.
Okay. Now we have come to the end of this webinar, and we are looking forward to having a great, successful course in near future, and announcements will be made with regard to that further. But right now, official and formal vote of thanks. We have come to the last but an integral part of any event, that is formal vote of thanks. This international webinar cannot be completed without expressing gratitude and heartfelt thanks to our guest speakers, participants, college administration, and organizing committee. On behalf of IQAC and B.Ed Department of Isabella Thoburn College, I am grateful to our distinguished speaker, Dr. Philip Yappi, for taking time out of his busy schedule to enlighten us with his knowledge and expertise. Thanks are due to our guest of honor, Professor Tripta Trivedi, for giving us blessings and full support for the forthcoming course. My deep gratitude is due to Dr. E.S. Charles, President of Isabella Thoburn College, for her support and blessings. Dr. Vinita Prakash, the Principal of Isabella Thoburn College, is true inspiration behind this webinar. Her guidance and continuous support made this possible. Dr. Prakash, please accept our gratitude. In the end, I wish to thank all the participants for their overwhelming response. I hope you all have been benefited by it. A certificate of participation will be given to all the attendees. Thank you, everyone. Have a good day.
Thank you once again, Professor Philip. Thank you so much.